I don't know about you, but I find money makeover articles in newspapers really interesting. So I'm going to take one I found recently and do a deep dive on it to really get behind the numbers so you can understand what's really going on in terms of income, wealth, taxes, and whether someone really can afford to retire early. So the stats are here. His age is 63, his wife is 50, he's got 3 children, he's got a defined benefit pension that will pay him £40,000 at age 65. His desired retirement income is 50,000 after tax. His salary is 121,000 before tax. He's got defined benefit pension 970,000, full state pension, mortgage of 60,000, premium bonds 10,000, ISA 6,000. His house is worth 900,000 and he has a holiday home worth 240,000 that he's considering using as Airbnb. Let's run through a breakdown of Steve's income. So his gross salary is 112,000. He puts in a pension contribution, I'm assuming 5%. He then gets taxed, and because his salary is over 100,000, it also includes a loss of part of his personal allowance. So he's got some potentially marginally 60% tax that he's paying. He pays national insurance. And after what I imagine he pays on the mortgage, his disposable income is about 66,000 a year. So that's not too dissimilar to the 50,000 that he desires in retirement if you factor in some money he's possibly spending on his 3 children that will hopefully end in retirement. When we come to look at Steve's wealth, the thing I notice is that there is quite a lot of it. There's the house, less the mortgage, there's a healthy balance in the SIP, defined benefit pension, if you value it at 20 times annual income, which is how it's valued for the lifetime allowance, that's 800,000. He's got a rental property worth 260,000. What's kind of interesting is that he doesn't have much money in an ISA or any sort of just general cash savings account. So he doesn't really have an emergency fund. I think that's something that he needs to look into. To build on that, I think that true wealth is a positive mindset and the ability to go out there and learn knowledge or skills that can be sold to others. And when you've got that, you can pretty much retire at any age and on any amount of money. And you don't need nearly £3 million worth of assets before you finally pull the trigger. So people who have both defined benefit and defined contribution pensions might fall foul of the 25% tax-free cash limits. So the tax-free cash you can take at the moment is the maximum of 1.0731 million less the value of your DB pension and the tax-free cash that has with it. But most DB pensions have no tax-free cash associated with them. So in the worst case scenario, the tax-free cash that Steve can access is just over 68,000 as is shown in this calculation. So what he needs to do is take the tax-free cash from his defined contribution pension before the DB pension kicks in. And he can do this while he's still working and still make maximum contributions to his defined contribution pension. So it's definitely worthwhile. This helps to show the value add that a finance coach can offer when looking over your retirement plans. And you can contact me, I'll leave my details in the description to the video. This is the wealth plan for Steve if we assume a 6% annual return on his investments and if he puts his SIP into drawdown to maximise the tax-free cash. So as we can see, the numbers go from about 1.2 million to about 3.7 million at the age of 90. And even if we take out the effects of inflation, it's still about 1.7 million when he's age 90. So if he takes an income of 50,000 a year after tax, that's easily achievable in this scenario. And here are the sources of income for Steve. He's working, he then takes tax-free cash, he then lives off his defined benefit pension, his state pension, and he lives off ISA because that's where the tax-free cash is going. And then finally, in the later years, he accesses his SIP. When looking at the marginal rate of taxation, the state pension received and the 40k defined benefit pension will put Steve into the 40% tax band for pretty much all of his retired life. So you probably wonder why wealthy people go on money makeovers and have all their income and wealth published in a national newspaper. Well, the reason is that some financial advisors charge huge amounts of money, and also sometimes their advice is more geared around selling products and making money for the financial advisor rather than putting your best interests at heart. Steve has a holiday home that he's looking to potentially Airbnb when he retires to generate additional income. It doesn't seem like he needs this income, and the problem with Airbnb can be that it works in 29 years out of 30, but the year it doesn't work, your property gets trashed and the insurance refuses to pay up. So I just think in retirement, opt for a simpler and less risky life. So one thing that I've noticed about the case study is that his wife has few assets or income. So there's a possibility that he could buy life insurance so that if he died in retirement, there'll be a shortfall on his defined benefit pension because the 40,000 will probably be halved. That's a possibility for him, but I do think he has enough other assets to compensate for that. For his wife, she should consider topping up her state pension, and also she can put £2,880 each year into a SIP until she's 75, independent of whether she has any income or not. But the main piece of advice would be to start up a passion project that can be monetized so that she's got things to do, a sense of purpose. So it could be something like becoming a florist or selling cupcakes or walking dogs, just anything that just helps to give you activities and money coming in, because I think that's an important thing for a successful retirement. The advantage of a retirement calculator spreadsheet is that you can run infinite combinations through it and you own the file for life. You can customize it to look at any scenario you like. Here we've looked at a scenario of cutting the defined benefit pension in half, which possibly might happen if Steve was to die after he'd started taking the DB pension. And what we can see is that the wealth is impacted, but it is still achievable to get a £50,000 after-tax income, even if the worst scenario were to happen. Now let's run a scenario where he provides for deposits on houses for each of his 3 children at £50,000 in consecutive years. And we can see that the plan is still intact, although it is tailing off towards the end of his life. I hope you've enjoyed this case study, which demonstrates the power of a retirement calculator and how it can help you to visualize your wealth and income over time. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and if you're interested in learning more, go to my website www.ianshadrack.com.